Journey to the West, an audio drama series. Chapter 38, Part 2. 行者 and 八戒 soon arrived and descended from their clouds. They heard 2 drum beats coming from the top of the city towers. 行者 said, "Brother, it's now the 2nd watch." 八戒 said, "Good timing, good timing. This is when everyone's deep in their initial phase of sleep." The 2 did not head for the front gate, but instead went to the back entrance. From there, they heard the sound of clappers and bells. 行者 said, "Brother, both entrances are tightly guarded. How shall we get in?" 八戒 said, "Have you ever seen the thieves entering through the door? Just jumped over the wall instead." 行者 did as he was told and hopped over the inner walls of the palace. 八戒 jumped to follow him. The 2 snuck inside to find their way to the imperial garden. As they were walking, they found a gated building with triple eaves and white ornaments. On it were 3 large bright characters. Gleaming in the light of the stars and moon, it read, 御花园, meaning the imperial garden. 行者 approached to have a look. The gate was sealed with several layers of paper, and the lock on it was thoroughly rusted. He thereby ordered 八戒 to get to work. So the fool wielded his iron rake and struck with all his might, shattering the gate into pieces. 行者 made wide strides inside first, and could not help but jump up and make loud noises. Terrified, 八戒 seized him and said, "Oh, big brother, you are scaring me to death. Since when does a thief shout this loud and make such noises? If you wake anyone up and we get arrested, we'll be tried in court. Even if we escape the death penalty, we would at the very least be sent to military service in our place of origin." 行者 replied, "Oh, brother, you have no idea why I suddenly became upset. Look at this. Decorated fences in ruins, embellished buildings barely standing, water plants buried under dust, flowers withered with all colors lost, the blossoming grounds desecrated, exotic buds all perished. Artificial hills fallen as ponds dried up, killing the fish inside. Pines and bamboo dry as firewood, the roads covered by damaged branches. The meandering path to the bridge now home to moss. What a desolate garden has this become?" 八戒 said, "What's the point of lamenting? Hurry up and get down to business." 行者 was still quite sentimental about it, but he did remember that in Tangmang Stream, the well was beneath a banana tree. As they walked, they indeed came across a banana tree. It was luxuriantly growing, unlike the other plants. Truly, one magical sprout so elegant, with branches like paper and leaves like scrolls. Inside the countless green strands is a red heart, which grieves in melancholy through rain and wind. It takes skilled gardeners to nurture. You can create calligraphy on it like paper. Shaped like the tail of a phoenix, shrouded in thin dew and mist. It's not the place for a bird to rest or a horse to be tied. In cold weather it withers, for it's only useful to keep away the hot sun. Shy for lacking the color of peaches and plums, it now stands alone by the east side of whitewashed walls. 行者 said, 八戒, why not get to work now? The treasure is buried right below the banana tree. The fool then raised the rake with both hands and struck down the banana tree. He then used his snout to burrow into the pile. After digging in for about 3 to 4 chi deep, he saw a stone slab covered on top of something. Delighted, the fool said, "Oh, big brother, what tremendous luck! There is indeed a treasure. A stone slab is covering on top of it. I wonder if it's kept in a jar or held inside a cabinet." 行者 said, "Lift it up so we can have a look." The fool indeed used his snout to push the slab off. Looking again, they could see rainbow colors gleaming and bright light shining. 八戒 laughed and said, "Great fortune, what great fortune! The treasure is emitting light." He moved closer to have a better look. Alas! It was the light of the stars and moon reflected by the water inside a well, creating the glow. 八戒 said, "Oh, big brother, whenever you do something, you've got to be thorough about it." Xingzhou asked. What do you mean? Bajie explained. This is a well. When you were at the temple, you could have told me that the treasure lies in a well. Then I could have brought the 2 ropes we used to tie the luggage and figured out a way to drop Obo down there. Now we're empty-handed. How are we supposed to go down and up again to fetch the thing inside? Xingzhou asked. Are you willing to go down? Bajie said. I was about to, but we've got no rope. Xingzhou smiled and said, Just take off your clothes. I'll give you a ride down. Bajie said, What clothes are there to speak of? All I have to do is untie the straight robe. Splendid, great sage. He took out his golden hooped rod and pulled on both ends, yelling, Grow! And the rod grew to about 7 or 8 zhang long. He then instructed, Bajie, hold on to one end and I will lower you into the well. Bajie said, Oh, big brother, it's fine to lower me, but when you get to the water, remember to stop. Xingzhou replied, I know. The fool thereby embraced the iron rod before Xingzhou lightly lifted him up and lowered him into the well. Soon he was near the water. Bajie said, I've reached the water now. Xingzhou heard him speak, so he pressed the rod downward. The fool was thrown feet first into the water with a splash. Letting go of the iron rod, he swam into the water, all the while muttering to himself, That cursed thing! I said to not let go when we get to the water, but he pressed me down instead. Xingzhou withdrew his rod and asked, laughing, Brother, is there any treasure? Bajie replied, What treasure is there to speak of? It's only a well full of water. Xingzhou said, The treasure is sunken at the bottom of the water. You should go search for it. The fool was indeed an expert in water. Diving down headfirst, he made his way downward. Alas, this well was extremely deep. He gave another solid dive downward before opening his eyes to find an arch with the word 水晶宫, meaning the Crystal Palace, on it. Astonished, Bajie exclaimed, Oh, never mind, I've gone the wrong way and ended up in the seas. There are crystal palaces in the seas. How could there be one in a whale? It turned out that Bajie did not know that this was the crystal palace of a dragon king of the whale. Bajie was just talking when a patrolling Yecha opened the gate and saw how he looked. Quickly heading back inside, the Yecha reported, Great King, there is trouble. A monk with long snout and huge ears fell from the well. He's naked and unclothed, but he isn't dead and can still use magic to talk. The Dragon King of the Well heard this report and was shocked when he said, It must be the Marshal of Heavenly Reeds coming. Last night, the Divine Wanderer of the Night delivered an imperial edict to pick up the soul of the King of Black Rooster Kingdom. That way he can go visit the Tongue Monk and ask the Heaven-equaling Great Sage to subdue the monster. It must be the Heaven-equaling Great Sage and Marshal of Heavenly Reeds who have arrived. We must not be negligent. Hurry up and go welcome him inside. The Dragon King then tidied his clothes and let the many aquatic creatures out of the door, shouting loudly, Marshal of Heavenly Reeds, please come inside and have a seat. Overjoyed, Bajie said, It is an acquaintance after all. The fool had no regard for manners, so he went straight inside the Crystal Palace. He paid no attention to etiquette and took the honored seat above while still naked. The Dragon King asked, Marshal, I've heard that you were spared and converted to Buddhism. You should be escorting the Tongue Monk to West Heaven for scriptures. How did you arrive at this place? Bajie answered, I was about to say, my elder brother Sun Wukong sends his greetings. He had me come ask you to pick up some treasure. The Dragon King said, Poor me, for where do I even have a treasure in my possession? I'm nothing like the Dragon Kings of the Long River, the Yellow River, the Huai River, and the Ji River. They can fly around and transform, so naturally they have all the treasures. I've been stuck here for ages without even much time to see the sun and moon. Where would I get treasures? Bajie said, Stop making excuses. If you've got one, just bring it over. The Dragon King said, I do have one treasure in my possession, but I cannot bring it out. The Marshal would have to come see it for yourself. How about that? Bajie replied. Splendid, splendid, splendid. I've got to have a look. And so the Dragon King went ahead with the fool following behind. Walking past the crystal palaces, they came to the side corridor where a 6-foot tall body lay horizontally. The Dragon King pointed with his finger and said, Marshal, this is the treasure. Bajie approached to have a look. Alas, it turned out to be a dead emperor. He wore a tall hat and robe of yellow ochre. On his feet were a pair of warriorless shoes, and on his waist a jade belt. Straight and stiff, he lay there. Bajie chuckled and said, Hard, hard, too hard. This cannot count as a treasure. When old Bull was still a monster in the mountains, we often ate these things for food. Speaking out of how often we came across one of these, we've eaten more than enough. What sort of treasure is this? The Dragon King explained. I guess the Marshal didn't know. He is the corpse of the King of Black Rooster Kingdom. Since he entered the well, I have kept him intact, with a face-preserving pearl, so he never deteriorated. If you're willing to carry him away to see the heaven-equaling great sage, and if he wishes to revive the king, then speak not of treasures. You will be able to get whatever you want. Bajie asked, If it's as you say and I carry him away for you, how much burial expenses will you pay me? The Dragon King replied, I haven't any to pay you. Bajie said, Nice of you to use unpaid labor. If you really don't have the money, then I won't do it. The Dragon King said, If that's the case, then please see your way out. Bajie thereby left the place. The Dragon King then sent 2 strong Yecha to carry the body all the way outside the gate of the Crystal Palace. They just left it there before retrieving a water-repelling pearl which caused watery noises. Bajie quickly turned around at the noise, but the gate to the Crystal Palace was gone. He reached over and only felt the corpse of the emperor. Panicking with sore feet and numb tendons, he dashed from the water and clung to the wall of the well, yelling, Elder brother, put the rod down to save me. Xingzhe asked, Is there a treasure? Bajie answered, Not at all, but there is a Dragon King of the well at the bottom of the water who told me to carry a dead man. I refused, so he sent me out the door. I can't find the Crystal Palace anymore. All I can feel is the dead body. I'm so scared. My hands are going weak and tendons numb. I can barely move. Oh, big brother, do help me by any means. Xingzhe asked, That thing is the treasure. Why not carry it up here? Bajie said, Who knows how long he's been dead? Why make me carry him? Xingzhe said, If you won't carry him, then I'm heading back. Bajie asked, Where are you going? Xingzhe answered, Back to the temple and back to sleep alongside Master. Bajie asked, Am I not going with you? Xingzhe said, If you can climb up, I'll leave with you. If not, then forget about it. Bajie panicked and said, How can I climb at all? Think about it. The city walls were hard enough. This well has a wide belly but tiny opening. It's surrounded by steep walls. Not to mention it's a well that hasn't bailed water for several years. Moss is growing everywhere in clumps. It's terribly slippery. How am I supposed to climb it? Big brother, let's not lose our brotherly love. Wait till I carry him up then. Xingzhe said, That's right. Hurry up and carry him so you and I can go back together to sleep. The fool once again dove downward and reached for the corpse. He pulled the body over and threw it on his back before emerging from the water. Clinging to the walls, he said, Big brother, I've got him on my back. Xingzhe opened his eyes to look, and indeed the corpse was on his back. Only then did he lower the golden-hooped rod to the bottom of the well. The fool was quite outraged, so he opened his mouth and bit on the iron rod before Xingzhe lightly lifted him up. Bajie put the body down before putting his clothes back on. Xingzhe observed the body and found the features of the emperor unchanged, looking exactly like when he was alive. He asked, The man has been dead for 3 years. How is it that his features remain unchanged? Bajie explained, You have no idea. The Dragon King of the Well told me that he kept it preserved with a face-preserving pearl so the body never deteriorated. Xingzhe said, What luck! What luck! On one hand, his revenge remains to be had, and on the other hand, we are bound to succeed. Brother, hurry up and carry him away. Bajie asked, Carry him to where? Xingzhe answered, Carry him back to see master. Bajie muttered to himself non-stop. Listen to that, listen to that. I was perfectly asleep when this ape with his sweet words convinced me to engage in some business. And it turns out to be this sort of thing, to carry a dead body. With him on my back and all the foul, unclean water pouring down, my clothes will be soiled without anyone washing them for me. There are already several patches sewn on it that get damp on cloudy days. How am I supposed to wear them? Xingzhe said, Just carry him. Once we are back in the temple, I'll find you clothes to change into. Bajie retorted, Shameless. You barely have anything to wear yourself, and you're speaking of getting me clothes. Xingzhe said, If you keep talking back, then I guess you won't carry him. Bajie said, No way. Xingzhe said, Then show me your ankle so I can hit you 20 times. Terrified, Bajie said, Big brother, the rod is heavy. If you hit me 20 times, I'll be no different from the emperor. Xingzhe said, If you're so afraid of getting hit, just hurry up and carry him away. Bajie was indeed fearful of getting hit, so he had to keep his grievances to himself and drag the body over. With the corpse on his back, he strode out of the garden. Splendid great sage! With the right gesture and spells, he sucked a mouthful of air from the southeastern direction before breathing out and creating a violent wind. The gust carried Bajie out of the inner palaces and away from the city. By the time the wind subsided, the two were back on the ground, walking in slow steps. The fool was quite upset inside, so he made the calculation to make Xingzhe pay, thinking to himself, This monkey played a trick on me. So when I'm back in the temple, I will play a trick on him too. I will convince master that he can revive the dead man. If not, I shall have master recite the tightening band spell. Only when the monkey's brains are squeezed out can I be satisfied. He kept on walking as he gave it another thought and said, Bad idea, bad idea. To simply have him revive a person is easy. He can just ask for the soul from King Yan and the man will come back to life. I shall say that he won't have to go to the underworld because he can revive the man in the realms above. That will work better. Soon enough, they arrived at the mountain gate. Walking straight through, Bajie tossed the body outside the door of the meditation room and called, Master, come have a look. The tongue monk could not fall asleep. He was just telling Sha monk about how Xingzhe talked Bajie into going with him and how they've been gone for such a long time without coming back. Suddenly, the tongue monk heard the call, so he quickly got up and asked, Disciples, what is there to look at? Bajie replied, It's Xingzhe's maternal grandfather. He had old Bo carry him here. Xingzhe said, You stuffed fool, what maternal grandfather do I even have? Bajie said, Big brother, if he weren't your maternal grandfather, why did you have old Bo carry him here? You have no idea how much effort it takes. The tongue monk and Sha monk opened the door and saw the emperor's features unchanged as if he was still alive. The elder said in sorrow, Your Majesty, I wonder from which past life gave you this foe that you should meet in this life. In secret, you lost your life away from your wife and son and unbeknownst to your civil and military officials. What a pity that your wife and son were blinded and unaware. Who has even burnt incense or served tea for you? His voice suddenly cracked as tears rolled down like rain. Bajie chuckled and said, Master, what does his death have anything to do with you? He's not your ancestor. Why are you crying for him? Sanzang said, O disciple, we who have left the family must live by compassion and be directed by convenience. Why are you so stone-hearted? Bajie said, I'm not stone-hearted. Elder brother told me that he can bring the man back to life. If not, I would not have carried him here. The elder was already an indecisive person, So he was persuaded by the fool and called, 悟空, if there is indeed a way to revive this emperor, that would be saving a life, which is a greater feat than building 7 pagodas. It won't be a smaller matter than meeting Buddha on Spirit Mountain. Xingzhou replied, Master, why do you believe the fool's nonsense? Once a person is dead after 3 sets of 7 days, or 5 sets, or even a full 7 sets, they would have completed their suffering in the world above and gone into reincarnation. It's been 3 years already. How am I supposed to revive him? Sanzang heard that and said, If that's the case, then so be it. Bajie grew increasingly resentful, so he said, Master, don't you get blindsided by him? He's got that headache thing going on. Just recite the spell, and I guarantee he can give a living man back to you. And so the Tang monk really began reciting the tightening band spell, squeezing the monkey till his eyes were sore and his head in great pain. There is no knowing how they will save the dead man. Please wait until the next chapter.